The effects of personality, motivation and aggression on sports performance. Personality is defined as the combination of characteristics or qualities that form an individual's distinctive character. There are two types, type A and type B. Type A is usually competitive, they experience high levels of anxiety and they lack patience, whereas type B is usually more relaxed and they experience lower levels of anxiety and they are more tolerant towards others. Type A advantages, it's simple and it's easy to understand. There's evidence to suggest this can be true. The disadvantages is it's too simple, personality is more complex than this, and there's evidence to show this can be inaccurate. There's 4 personality theories. The first is called the trait theory. This theory suggests that it is our characteristics which determine how we are going to react in a certain situation. It suggests there are 2 types of people, introvert and extrovert. Introverts tend to be quiet, shy and don't really show opinions. The trait theory tells us that introverts do not actively seek excitement. They prefer calm, quiet environments. They prefer tasks which consist of great concentration, and they also dislike the unexpected. Introverts regularly play sports which don't consist of teamwork and competitive situations. Instead, introverts play individual sports or activities. Extroverts are the complete opposite. Extroverts are the type of people who are outgoing and loud. They also tend to be more confident and like to show off. The trait theory also tells us that extroverts get bored quickly, are poor at tasks that require a lot of concentration, seek excitement and change, and are less responsive to pain. They are also typically more successful in sporting situations. The trait theory suggests that the situation only has a small impact on people's behaviour, and it is the personality type that determines how you will act. Athlete versus non-athlete. Athletes will experience more pressure and criticism, so therefore they will feel more anxious to express themselves, causing their personality type to be more likely to be introvert. On the contrary, successful athletes will feel confident after achieving their goals and succeeding. This may cause them to be outgoing and perhaps cocky, which is extrovert. Non-athletes don't have as much pressure, so they can express themselves and their real personality. Athletes of differing skill. At high level, they tend to take it seriously, so they can become frustrated visibly, and this is extrovert behaviour. The higher level you go, the more pressure there is, and this means that you're more likely to change, so from an introvert to an extrovert or an extrovert to an introvert. This doesn't support the theory. Team versus individual. Team are influenced by others, so this could also change the personality visibly. Individuals tend to express themselves as they are alone, so they are not influenced by other people. The theory suggests that it doesn't matter about the situation, so the personality should stay the same no matter what the situation. There is evidence to suggest this doesn't work. Trait theory is simple and easy to understand, and there's evidence to suggest this can be true. It's too simple, personality is more complex than this, and there's evidence to show this can be inaccurate. The positives and negatives are the same as type A versus type B. This theory is called the situational approach. It has 5 elements of a situation which it suggests determine how someone will act. The elements are: 1. Structure of the interpersonal relationships within the group. 2. Characteristics of the group as a whole. 3. Characteristics of the group environment from which members come from. 4. Physical constraints of the group. 5. How everyone else around is behaving. This theory is a leadership approach which involves different situations which require different types of leadership. The situational approach forces the leader to adapt their style of leadership to the situation at hand. They will choose to have a high or low directive and a high or low supportive behaviour. Directing is a high directive with low supportive behaviour. Coaching is a high directive with high supportive behaviour. Supporting is low directive and high supportive behaviour, and delegating is low directive and low supportive behaviour. Athletes will tend to be coached by delegating, which is low directive and low support. This makes them more independent, because on match days they have to make their own decision. But the coach will use a range of techniques, as they spend a lot of time with the athletes and they don't want to become predictable. They want to show that they're in control to keep the athletes motivated to impress them. Non-athletes will normally need a lot of coaching, which is a lot of support and direction, because they're not sure what they're doing. Athletes of differing skill. In the early stage, they will need coaching because they'll need a high directive and high supportive behaviour to have the confidence to continue. They'll need educating and feedback so they can learn to be more independent. In a team, there won't be much directing because they don't have as much time with each player, so they can't support them as much as they would be able to in an individual. In an individual, they'll rarely do low supportive behaviour as they have lots of time to spend with them and they can support the athlete individually. The positives of situational approach. When a coach adapts a session to the needs of an individual, relationships are formed. It's also quite easy to understand from the structure. It takes longer for coaches to adapt and deliver the session, but it may be hard to recognise what is needed. The wrong kind may form a bad relationship. Psychodynamic theory. The psychodynamic theory is a view that explains personality in terms of conscious and unconscious forces. There are some basic assumptions. It assumes behaviour is affected by unconscious motives. Behaviour comes from childhood experiences. Personality is made up of conflicts from childhood, and personality is made up of three parts: the id, ego, and superego. The id stands for instinctive drive, which is part of our personality which is unconscious. The ego is the conscious part of our personality which we have complete control of. The superego is the moral conscious part, which is basically the way you think, which always affects the outcome. For example, a footballer may miss a penalty because they are thinking that they are going to miss it. An athlete could lose control of the ego as pressure makes us change. Also, the superego is the moral conscious part, which is basically the way you think affects the outcome. So the media could make the athlete scared of failure if they choose to focus on the negatives rather than the positives. So the athlete is more concentrated on not doing anything negative rather than doing something positive. Also, they may become unconsciously frustrated, which, for example, when losing. Non-athletes are less mentally prepared, so childhood experiences could be more obvious. For example, they could be aggressive because they have been involved in childhood arguments at home. Athletes of differing skill. At low level of skill, they may be unconsciously more passionate because they are more bothered about the intrinsic reward, as there are less extrinsic rewards such as money to offer. At a high level, the athlete may be unconsciously not as bothered, as they still get paid no matter the result or the performance. Team versus individual. They may become unconsciously jealous of other players who are playing better than them and therefore become frustrated. The individual may also become unconsciously insecure of their own performance because they have lived a lonely life training by themselves. The interactional psychodynamic theory, positive. Nature and nurture are both accounted for. Negative, we do things without thinking. Interactional approach. This theory suggests a person's personality changes depending on their situation or environment. For example, an extroverted person may get nervous in a high pressure situation and become introverted, or vice versa. Athletes tend to have more pressure, so they may become introverted because they must be a strong introvert to remain extrovert. They must be a strong extrovert to remain extrovert in a high pressure situation, because pressure usually makes people become shy and not very confident. Non-athletes, the situation may affect them less as there's less pressure, so traits will be stronger. However, social aspects may change them. For example, they may be new to the team and don't know the players, so they may become introverted, but not for the reason of pressure. Athletes of differing skill. In the early stage, then they will not be as serious about their sport. They will be there more for the advantages of improving their fitness or their social skills. So this means that they may be changed by fitness testing results or the social aspect. At a high level, they will be more confident, so they may express themselves better. So this means they may be less likely to change in situations. Team versus individual. In a team, other people's behaviour influence our behaviour, so different situations will make people change. So in a situation where everyone is acting as introverts, this may make an extrovert change to an introvert. The positives: you can adapt to different situations and explain the change in people's behaviour. Disadvantages of the theory: traits are always changing and it doesn't apply to everybody. Martin's schematic view. The Martin schematic view has a structure and a psychological core at the bottom, typical responses in the middle, and role-related behaviour at the top. They all impact each other. Role-related behaviour is when you become a role model or a representative. You have to act in a certain way, for example, a captain or a mum. Typical response is how you usually react. This will be in response to the role you are currently in and your beliefs. Psychological core is your beliefs, and it is often described as the real or raw you. Athletes will tend to have more responsibility, and so this will make their role-related behaviour have a larger influence on their typical response, whereas their psychological core may be hidden as the media make them anxious to reveal the real them. And also, they must act professional. Athletes of differing skill. At a high level, you may be confident after you've had a lot of success, so this makes you confident in yourself, so you can show the real you. At a low level, they may not understand the role-related behaviour, so this will have a lower influence on the typical response. For example, they may not know how to act as a captain if they have not experienced this before. Team versus individual. In a team, you may hide the real you because you don't want your teammates to judge you or not like you. But your role-related behaviour may have a large influence on it, as if you're the captain, you will give out instructions, which is a typical response of a captain. As an individual, you will be more confident to show the real you, and your typical responses may be more stable, as you are not influenced by people around you. The advantages are it's easy to follow. Any behaviour of an athlete displayed can be explained. Disadvantages: it's too simple, the human mind is more complex, it's most likely incorrect, and there's no mention of the learning element. Motivation is defined as the direction and intensity of effort. There are two types. There is intrinsic motivation, which is where you are motivated without external reward or the main reason being achievement of external reward. There is extrinsic motivation, which is where you are motivated by external factors. The need achievement theory states that motivation comes from the individual's personality and is their motivation to strive for success. It can be put into two categories: need to achieve or need to avoid failure. The need to achieve is where you are driven to succeed for feelings of pride and satisfaction. You've got no fear of failure. Whereas the need to avoid failure is where you're driven to avoid the feelings of failure, shame, and humiliation. Need to achieve minus need to avoid failure equals the achievement need. Attribution theory. The theory is defined as the process of giving reasons for performance or result. For example, internal stable, you would say we were more skillful. Externally stable, you would say the opposition are world champions. Internally unstable, we tried hard. Externally unstable, the court was slippery. They're just examples. The achievement goal theory. This theory states that there are two types of goals: performance and outcome goals. A performance goal helps the athlete to focus on an aspect of performance that they are in total control of. A performance goal might be a 200-metre sprinter trying to beat their personal best, or a hockey midfielder trying to score their highest level in the multi-stage fitness test. Performance allows the athlete to focus in on details of the performance, not just winning and losing. An outcome goal helps the performer to focus on the big picture of what they are trying to achieve. A youth rugby player may aim to be selected for a regional team before the end of a season. A pole vaulter may aim to finish in first place at the major championship. Factors contributing to a motivational climate. Behaviour of a leader. The behaviour of someone who has more authority than you must act as a role model and act and speak with a growth mindset in order to create a motivational climate. For example, Guardiola is always hungry for more, even after big wins, after he recently criticised his team just after they won 5-0. That's an example. This prevents complacency and promotes hunger to constantly do better. Physical environment. The environment you are physically in will help the athlete's climate, as a modern and advanced training ground will offer the athletes access to a variety of equipment, meaning they will have no excuse not to succeed. The positivity of the environment conditions will contribute to the motivation, as the athletes will be more motivated, for example, to win at Wembley rather than at a local park. The influence of a significant other. The positive influence of a significant other, for example a parent, will motivate the athlete to do well because they won't want to let them down or be viewed as a failure. It adds pressure for them to succeed and will motivate them to do so even when one day they cannot be bothered. Individual personality. There is no set personality type that is more likely to succeed. However, you must portray certain qualities such as resilience. A group of people that have the right traits in common will create a motivational climate, as they all compete to be better people and players. Factors affecting motivation. The situation. The circumstance of which the goal is in will affect the motivation, as if you are losing, then you are more motivated to win than if you are winning. Interaction of personality and situation. Different personalities will react differently to situations, as for example, if an athlete has to deal with an important family member death, then one type of person may see this as a motivating factor to make them proud by working harder and succeeding. However, another type of person may give up easily as they feel dejected and depressed, and they could even quit as they no longer want to sacrifice things such as family time. Extrinsic and intrinsic rewards. The personal satisfaction of achieving personal goals, which is an intrinsic reward, will make the athlete feel confident and motivated as they battle to win the extrinsic rewards such as trophy. Intrinsic rewards are needed to have the highest level of motivation as only near the end of the season you can fulfill big extrinsic rewards such as trophies. However, feedback may be given extrinsically, causing the athlete to feel happy and therefore motivated to earn more rewards of both types. Aggression. It is defined as a deliberate physical or verbal behaviour. It involves intent to harm or injure, which is outside the rules. For example, a punch below the belt in boxing. Gill's criteria for aggression. An example is if you are driven to win in the Champions League final and you're losing 1-0, you will become frustrated and aggressive. So you have two options. You can make a good firm tackle, winning the ball and taking the opponent out, or you can make a rash mistimed tackle causing a foul and a yellow or red card. So you have a drive to goal, then you have an obstacle to a goal which causes frustration, and then you can take your aggression out, which can be done as a release, such as the tackle, winning the ball, or it can mean you get punished, which makes you even more aggressive and frustrated. Instinct theory. This theory states that you are born with aggression. In other words, it is innate. This means that if you are an aggressive person, you will be aggressive in all situations. Sport will heighten this aggression, but people will also use it as a release, which is called catharsis. This will reduce antisocial and destructive behaviour. Diego Costa is an example of an athlete that supports this theory, as he is aggressive on and off the football pitch. He is often in rows with his own players in the dressing room and the opposition on the pitch. Frustration aggression theory states that aggression is caused by frustration as the performer is blocked on the way to achieving their goal. This causes a drive towards the source of the frustration. For example, Ronaldo pulled the hair of a player after becoming frustrated because they was preventing him from scoring. Social learning theory. This states that aggressive and non-aggressive behaviours are learnt through observation, imitation, which is otherwise known as modelling, and reinforcement. Players with a high status, such as David Beckham, are more likely to be copied. Events are viewed by all age and abilities, so they can be easily observed. Also, if the learner believes behaviour will be reinforced, for example approval by teammate or coach, or they don't get punished, they will continue to do this. There are three types of aggression. Hostile aggression. The main purpose of this type of aggression is to cause injury and harm to the opponent. It is planned and involves anger. For example, a defender may stamp on an attacker's foot after they have been annoying them. Instrumental aggression. This type of aggression has an intent to harm but is used as a mean to another goal. There is no anger involved. It uses aggression to get a result. For example, a shoulder barge in football, which may make the opponent fall over, but you will win the ball and possession for your team. Assertion. Finally, the third type of aggression is robust and vigorous behaviour, but with no intent to harm. It's behaviour within the rules and uses legitimate force. For example, a rugby player competing for a 50-50 and accidentally colliding with a player. Done.